Welcome back to the program. I'm joined by John Brummett now of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette to talk about the year in review in 2018. Maybe we'll even peek forward into 2019.
Whatever you want to do.
Let's begin with some big stories of 2018 that I went through in the last break there. Let's begin with the public corruption scandal. We saw a couple more state legislators either indicted or convicted in 2018, and it doesn't seem like the end is done yet.
No. I mean, there's at least one other legislator, no need to name a name, who seems so severely implicated that something's got to be resolved on that. And maybe two or three. Jeremy Hutchinson's matter is still pending. So yeah, this thing, the feds take their time, don't they?
Yeah, and they don't really tell you when they're going to be done either.
No.
I have a feeling that they may just kind of keep it open for the duration.
But I do think the people of the state have sort of missed a major corruption scandal story. I mean, we've had one, and it's sort of been under the radar. And it's partly because so much attention is directed to the mess in Washington with this particular preposterous president, but also because this is, I think we're jaded to political corruption. And also, this is kind of bipartisan. You know, some of this happened and started happening in the previous governorship, a Democratic governorship, and now this one, and then Hank Wilkins is Democrat. Then you've got
Eddie Cooper was a Democrat.
Eddie Cooper's Democrat. Then you've got Republicans.
John Woods and Jake Files, Republicans. Yeah.
So nobody's been comfortable trying to advance a partisan issue about this. But my goodness, I mean, we've got what, a half dozen legislators indicted or convicted. A couple more yet to come. Theft, literally, of millions upon millions of dollars in what ought to be for good purposes, treatment of people with behavioral health problems through Medicaid. And it all happened. And we got folks in jail, we got others getting ready to go to jail pending sentencing. And it has not really been the exclamation point headline that it really deserved to be.
Part of that has been because it has been stretched out over such a long period of time, too. I mean, we're talking 4 years, maybe even 5 in terms of how long the probe has been going on and some of the
So the insiders were conditioned that something is going to happen, and when it happened, they sort of knew it was going to happen already, and the public interest has been dissipated. Not a big batch of indictments. Like years ago, like 30 county judges were indicted at once. Well, okay, you can get that.
Right.
This is
or the ad litem scandal of the late 1990s, where it was.
But that makes it no less really major. This is a big deal. We have had a federal investigation of our state legislative culture that has found it deeply infested with corruption.
Talking about the 2018 elections, we were watching to see if there would be a blue wave in Arkansas. There was a blue wave of candidates in Arkansas, but at the end, in the state legislature, really no net changes in terms of the numbers and Republicans with supermajorities. All of the constitutional offices, all of the congressional offices remain Republican. The red tide held in Arkansas. Is that safe to say?
It didn't just hold. I think it's picking up steam. I mean, I know the Democrats had a couple of nice victories in northwest Arkansas. Great for them, but it's a default R state, as a leading Democrat said. Basically, for decades, this was a default D state. You put a Democrat by your name, and that's how you ran, and that's how you got elected. Now the default D goes to default vote goes to the R, to the Republican, and it's because of resentment of the national politics. The National Democratic Party has lost touch with working people, and working people feel more akin to Trump and his rhetoric and the Republican message as they hear it. And that's what's going on, and it perpetuates itself. In addition to the things that happened in this election, the 3 members of the Board of Apportionment to draw the next legislative district, Republicans. That means I can think of one of the Democratic gains in this election up in Springdale, just a little tinkering with that district. She's a one-termer, you know. So that's how the system perpetuates itself decade to decade. After the census, which will come up in 2020, the party in power can solidify its power by the way it draws districts, and that's the cycle we're in Arkansas.
Governor Asa Hutchinson wins with 65%. What do you think that does for him historically speaking now? Is he obviously has a lot of momentum going into the legislative session for his agenda, but he will potentially leave office as a very popular two-term governor, Republican governor, which we probably haven't seen since Huckabee. And I'm not sure how popular.
Well, yeah, there's been one governor in between, Beebe.
Right.
Right, yeah.
So, but what do you think this means for Asa Hutchinson, a guy that's been on the ballot for decades, tail end of his career here? I'm not saying he's done yet, because I don't think that he is.
No, but some of us, in fast forward, once he gets his second term, we start thinking about the end of the second term and what the second term will mean. And you start talking about legacy and history. I remember I interviewed for you, Beebe, early in his second term, and I kept talking about legacy. And afterward, he said, "Man, I got 4 years to go." And I said, but that's just the way we think, because you've been given the maximum, you've been validated for a second term, and whatever you're going to do, you're going to be held accountable for it because you had full opportunity to do it. Hutchinson's place in history, I think, can be that an era that began with Rockefeller and bumpers, sort of a progressive government growth era, moderate, modernizing era in politics, which served the state well, but has kind of run its course. Hutchinson's 8 years can be known for changing that narrative, that due to the state's default R position in a more conservative state politics, he got taxes cut and I think he'll get them cut to the point that they're no longer the highest income tax rates in the region among bordering states. His Office of Transformation that he talks about, where he's trying to merge agencies and reorganize state government. I think he stands a chance to go in the top 6 or 7 most influential governors in the state's history, with bumpers, Donaghy, Rockefeller, maybe Huckabee and Beebe. I don't put Clinton in there.
You don't put Clinton in there?
Clinton's governorship was about him becoming president, and that was very successful. And I think in this second term, how much does he change, conservatize government? Over my screaming objections, by the way, but how much he does it will define what his place in history is.
We'll see. All right, let's talk about one of the big issues, the ballot issues that passed, has become a late in the year story, and I think will remain on the radar in 2019 is casinos, particularly in Pope County. We've seen an outgoing county judge and an outgoing mayor just at the last minute, here's my letter of support for casinos, which is all they needed, apparently.
Under the Constitutional Amendment.
Under the Constitutional Amendment.
But not under a local ordinance.
You think that we will see a lot of legal skirmishes on this issue in 2019?
I think we have a developing trend in Arkansas, and that is that the voters will do substantial things given the opportunity. They will embrace and endorse and call for medical marijuana. They will approve casinos.
Minimum wage.
And minimum wage. They will do all of that, and our political system will turn out to be unable to execute it without an incredible mess. I mean, the medical marijuana, when was that passed? 4 years ago or 2?
2 years ago,
6,
2016,
10,
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
If you just want to look at calendar years, but literally 2 years ago.
And now we're saying maybe we can give some cards in our folks and go to Oklahoma, where they set theirs up quickly. In Pope County, look, this was an arbitrary thing. State voters, here's a constitutional amendment which authorizes casinos in Jefferson and Pope counties. Jefferson County generally saying, great, we need it. Pope County's going, what?
Yeah, no, it was defeated by several thousand votes there.
So they put on their ballot an ordinance that said before our county judge can issue such a letter, we got to have a referendum. That passed 70-30 while the state amendment was losing 40-60. If you believe in local control, as I say in my morning column, a once conservative notion, then Pope County ought to have the authority to say whether they are going to have slot machines in their backyard. That the state should be able to authorize it, but don't they have a say locally in whether they have it? And that's going to be a big issue. And on top of that, we always get this odorous political activity surrounding these sorts of things. I mean, the marijuana thing, we had issues of corrupt or inappropriate behavior among some of the commissioners. Now you got the county judge and the mayor of Russellville.
Yeah, with question marks. What's going on?
In the face of a 30-70 vote saying we can't issue this letter unless the people have a referendum. They've plainly said they want to, and they issue a letter arbitrarily, unilaterally, in favor of a Mississippi company when most of the attention has been focused on the Cherokees who were going to do that too. We have the makings of just a long, protracted mess on this. And my view is the state can say we authorize a casino in Polk County, but the people of Polk County ought to have a say in whether we actually have to do it. But I don't think we have local control in this state, and I think they will eventually lose. And I think it's just going to be. It's going to be wild.
You get brownie points, though, in Russellville and Polk County for your stand, though. So.
Well, they know a good conservative up there when they see one.
All right, let's talk about, lastly, some new mayors in some of the bigger cities and high-profile cities of Arkansas. Obviously, Little Rock gets a new mayor in Frank Scott. You've got in Fort Smith, you've got George McGill up there, first African-American mayor of that city. And then you've got Stephanie Warmond in Bentonville, which is a growing city of influence, obviously, across the state.
No kidding.
Anyhow, what's it say about all the new blood in mayor's positions? There's other new mayors as well, too. So.
It says three different things. In Little Rock, it was big. I mean, the first African-American mayor. And not just that. I was on a panel in the summer with Skip Rutherford, and I give him credit. We were talking about the mayor's race, and I was saying this is a three-person dead heat. We don't know. Skip was saying, look at there's an African-American political movement in Little Rock in Pulaski County. Circuit clerk, Terry Hollingsworth, elected, was not expected. She those of us who are sort of establishment didn't really expect.
She won her primary by a bigger margin than I think anybody thought she could, yes.
Sheriff, two African-Americans, but one who was not the establishment candidate. He said there's something going on with sort of an African-American solidifying into a movement to make a move politically into office. And he said, and faithfully, watch out for Frank Scott. I think you look at Scott's victory in the context of those others. George McGill, first African-American mayor of Fort Smith.
In a city that has had some racial strife in Fort Smith.
Right. I think he's just, I think it was less meaningful in a cosmic racial sense than, and he'd been in the legislature as a low-key guy, very well liked. It's important that he won, and it's meaningful. Not quite as big a movement as I would say in Little Rock. In Bentonville, the interesting thing there is a candidate employed by Walmart, connected business-wise in the city, and supported by out-of-state Republican money, oddly, but out-of-state Republican money.
Yeah, in a mayor's race in Bentonville.
In the runoff, lost something like 63-37. At the same time, Courtney Goodson of the Arkansas Supreme Court on the statewide level is winning pretty handily re-election against David Sterling, who had tons of out-of-state conservative Republican money spent against her in his behalf. This was the election from those two examples, one state and one local, where outside money the first time was rebuffed, when it was overpowered by local factors, and that's very, very important and very good news.
Biggest thing you're going to be watching for in 2019, will it be things happening here in the state, or do you think the focus is going to be Washington, D.C.?
Really, I'd like to watch things here in the state, and they are interesting, and I will, but the story is how much will Trump melt down, and what is Mueller going to say? I mean, there is a possibility that his report will lead to some significant consideration of whether to impeach him, or whether he might just leave office, or whether he might face indictment. And all of these are just possibilities. But 2019 is the year when the dam breaks on that. And so we're going to have to find out what's he got, and what does it mean, and what are we going to do about it. And it is a seismic coming for the nation.
He is John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Always good to be with you.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
For the analysis.
You betcha.
And the foresight there.
You got it.
As well. We're back with more right after this.